The zipper on my purse made almost no sound. That's what still gets me, how quiet it was. Just a soft metallic hiss in the dark, like a snake exhaling. I lay there with my eyes half open, my cheek pressed into the pillow, watching a shadow move across my bedroom floor in the blue glow of a phone screen that wasn't mine. Fingers. Long, careful fingers sliding between my wallet and my checkbook. I didn't move. I didn't breathe right. And then I heard her whisper, not to me, not to anyone in that room. To herself. She won't even notice till the statement comes. The zipper hissed closed again. Footsteps retreated down the hallway, soft against hardwood, careful to skip the third step that always creaked. I lay in the dark for a long time after that, staring at the ceiling doing math I didn't want to do. My name is Diane Cole. I'm 47 years old, and for 15 years I built something out of nothing with my own two hands, a catering company called Cole & Company, which started as 6 aluminum trays in the back of a used Honda Civic and grew into a business that, last year, brought in Ma'am, that was a mid-century sideboard walnut sold as is. The woman who bought it said it was a gift for her sister-in-law's kitchen renovation. My kitchen wasn't being renovated. I hung up and sat very still for a moment, turning that word over in my head. Gift. She'd stolen from me to buy furniture and called it a gift, for me, that I never received and never asked for. Beat 2 the spa ledger. The spa was easier. I simply asked Vanessa about it directly, over dinner, my tone light, curious, almost admiring. You went to Willow Ridge Spa? I've always wanted to try their hot stone package. She didn't even flinch. Oh my God, you have to go. It's a whole day thing, Mark, you should treat her sometime. It's like $1,100 for the works, but it's so worth it. Mark, chewing, oblivious, said. That's steep. You get what you pay for, Vanessa said, and reached over and took a roll off my plate without asking, the way she took everything without asking. I filed that number away. $1,150 confirmed straight from her own mouth, and she didn't even know she was confessing. Beat 3 the wire transfer. The $5,550 transfer took longer. I called my bank's fraud line under the pretense of reviewing a suspicious charge, and after 11 minutes on hold, a representative read me the recipient name on the wire. Devin R. Pruitt. I didn't recognize the name, but I recognized the area code on the confirmation callback number. It matched a number I'd seen once briefly, lit up on Vanessa's phone screen at 2 in the morning a few weeks earlier, when I'd gotten up for water and passed the guest room door left ajar. I hadn't thought anything of it then. I decided to become, in Vanessa's eyes, precisely the woman she already believed me to be: sweet, distracted, clueless about money stuff. I let my shoulders round slightly when I walked through a room. I started leaving my phone face up on the counter with my banking app conveniently, harmlessly open to an old, stale statement. I started saying things like, oh, I really should learn how to read these bank emails, they're so confusing, while stirring a pot of soup, not looking at anyone, my voice pitched soft and a little helpless. I even let her borrow $40 from my wallet in plain sight one afternoon and said nothing but a mild, oh sure, just remind me, knowing full well she never would. Inside, I was doing something very different. I was pulling 12 months of statements. I was writing down every transaction, every merchant, every wire, cross-referencing it against a growing list of names, Devin R. Pruitt chief among them, who I would later learn was not a landlord, not a friend, but a man Vanessa had met at a bar 4 months earlier who ran a small, informal, entirely unlicensed investment club that was, in plainer language, a gambling operation dressed up in a blazer. My reasoning was simple and I repeated it to myself like a mantra. A predator who feels safe gets careless. A predator who feels hunted gets careful. I needed her to feel safe. I needed her to keep going in the open long enough for me to have everything. Dates, amounts, names, a paper trail so complete that no jargon on earth could talk her out of it. So I played small. I played soft. And Vanessa, who had never once looked at me like I was a person capable of strategy, relaxed completely. I set 3 things in motion. First, I opened a new personal account at a different bank, one Vanessa didn't know existed, and I moved the bulk of my actual savings there, leaving my old account looking, on the surface, exactly the same: modest, steady, unremarkable. bait essentially sitting in plain sight. Second, I installed a small battery-powered camera, no bigger than a matchbox, on the top shelf of the linen closet across from the kitchen island, angled to catch the counter where my purse sat every night. My nephew, who worked in IT, had shown me the app on my phone months earlier for an entirely unrelated reason. I never imagined I'd use it for this. Third, and this was the part that mattered most, I left a folder on the kitchen counter labeled in my own handwriting, Cole & Company, Q3 business line of credit, $40,000 approved, with a bank's letterhead peeking out of the top. It was real. I had just been approved for a business credit line, for legitimate expansion, new equipment, a second delivery van. I simply left it somewhere Vanessa would see it. Then I waited. I remember the Tuesday night it happened. Mark was asleep beside me, unaware, snoring softly, and my phone sat face down under my pillow, silenced but set to vibrate, connected to the closet camera's live feed. Around 1:50 a.m., it buzzed once against my ear, so quiet only I could feel it. I opened the feed under the covers, the screen brightness turned all the way down, my heart going harder than I wanted to admit. There she was, Vanessa, in one of my old college t-shirts, standing at the counter in the grainy green light of night vision, opening that folder, photographing the approval letter with her phone, and I watched her mouth move, silent on the feed, but I didn't need audio to read her satisfied little smile. She wasn't just stealing anymore. She was planning ahead. The dinner was Mark's mother's 70th birthday, held at her house, 22 people around 3 pushed-together tables, candles, the good china, my nephews running underfoot in their little collared shirts. Vanessa arrived in a dress I recognized instantly, because I'd priced it myself weeks earlier at a boutique downtown and put it back on the rack. $480. She wore it like a trophy. She'd also, I noticed, gotten her nails done. Freshly. Elaborately. Halfway through dinner, with the whole table listening, Mark's mother turned to me, smiling, and asked how the business was doing. Before I could answer, Vanessa cut in, laughing lightly. "Oh, Diane doesn't really do numbers, she's more of a vibes person, right? Mark handles all that." A few people chuckled. Mark, uncomfortable, said nothing, which stung more than the joke itself. Then Vanessa raised her wine glass, looking straight at me with a small, private smile that only I would understand. "To generous people," she said. "Some of us appreciate what we're given." I set my fork down. Very gently. The way you set something down when you're finished, not when you're upset. "I agree," I said, my voice even, unhurried, carrying easily across a table that had gone quiet without my raising it at all. "Generosity matters. Which is why I want to ask you something, Vanessa, in front of everyone. Since we're all family here and family shouldn't have secrets." Her smile flickered. 3 weeks ago at 3 a.m., you took my credit card out of my purse while I was asleep. You spent $2,300 on a sideboard you called a gift. $1,150 at a spa. Thank you for confirming that number yourself, by the way, at dinner a few weeks back. And $5,550, wired to a man named Devin Pruitt, for what I now know was a payment toward a debt from an unlicensed gambling club you've been part of since April. Silence. Real silence, the kind where you can hear ice settling in glasses. When I asked you about it, you told me it was a bridge loan due to a bank freeze. There was no freeze. I checked. There is no Devin Pruitt investment fund registered anywhere in this state. And 2 nights ago at 1:52 a.m., you photographed a business loan approval letter I left on my own kitchen counter. I have that on camera, along with the original theft. I placed my phone face up in the center of the table, the paused video frame glowing. Vanessa in my old t-shirt, phone raised, caught mid-photograph. Vanessa's mouth opened. Nothing came out for a moment. Then weakly, You're spying on me? In my own, that's insane, that's a violation. It's my house," I said quietly. "And it was my card. And it was my sleep. You interrupted to take it." Mark's mother, to her enormous credit, set her own napkin down and said, "Vanessa, is this true?" And Vanessa, cornered, arrogant even in collapse, said the thing that finished her. "God, it's $9,000, you have way more than that. You act like I robbed a bank." "You robbed me," I said. While I was asleep. That's not a loan. That's a crime. I reached into my bag and took out the folder, the real one, the one with 15 years of my own bank statements, the fraud complaint I'd already filed, and a printed police report number. I set it on the table beside my plate, next to the fake letter she'd photographed, and I tore the fake one in half slowly, deliberately, the sound of it loud in that silent room. That one was never real, I said. This one is. 2 officers whom I'd asked to arrive discreetly around that hour after I'd filed the report earlier that week, knocked on the front door less than 4 minutes later. In the weeks that followed, the consequences arrived the way consequences usually do, not all at once but in a steady, documented sequence. Vanessa was charged with theft and unauthorized use of a financial instrument. Because the amount exceeded $5,000 in our state, it qualified as a felony. She accepted a plea deal. Restitution of the full $9,000 plus fees, 3 years of probation, and 100 hours of community service. Devin Pruitt's investment club was reported to state financial regulators the same week. 2 other victims came forward within a month once word got around, and he was charged separately with operating an unlicensed gambling and lending scheme. Vanessa's employer at the time, she had in fact quietly taken a part-time retail job weeks before I ever found out, let her go after the arrest became a matter of public record, citing a background check clause in her contract. Socially, the fallout was its own kind of sentence. Mark's mother, the woman whose birthday dinner it had been, asked Vanessa to move out of our guest room permanently and did not speak to her for 4 months. 2 of Vanessa's closest friends, the same ones she'd bragged to on that back porch, distanced themselves once the story made its way through the family group chat, exactly the way these things do. Mark and I had a hard conversation, the hardest of our marriage. He hadn't known, hadn't suspected, and he carried a guilt about it that took time to work through. But he never once defended her actions to me, and that mattered more than I can easily explain. I want to tell you about the one act of grace in all of this, because it matters just as much as the reckoning did. My nephews, Vanessa's own sister's kids, the 2 boys who'd been staying with us on weekdays, had nothing to do with any of it. When their mother, overwhelmed and embarrassed by her sister's arrest, offered to pull them from our house entirely, so we wouldn't be burdened, I told her no. I told her those boys had done nothing wrong, that they were welcome at my table for as long as they needed to be, and that this was between me and Vanessa, not me and her family. I still packed their lunches every weekday. Some things don't get to be collateral damage. It rained the night Vanessa came back, 11 weeks later. A cold, thin October rain, the kind that gets into your collar. I opened the door to find her standing on the porch, no umbrella, a duffel bag at her feet, mascara run down under her eyes. Her car, she said, had been repossessed the week before. She'd been staying with a coworker who just asked her to leave. Diane, she said, her voice small in a way I genuinely never heard from her before. Please. Just for a few nights. I have nowhere else. I stood in the doorway, the porch light throwing yellow across the wet steps, and I felt, I'll be honest with you, a flicker of the old instinct to fold, to soften, to solve someone else's problem the way I'd been solving problems my whole life. Then I thought about a soft zipper hiss at 3 a.m. and a laugh on a back porch and the sentence. She's clueless about money stuff, it's honestly kind of sad. I hope you find somewhere warm tonight, I said, gently, without cruelty and without hesitation. But it isn't going to be here. I closed the door. Not hard. Just firmly, the way you close something that's actually finished. Mark was waiting in the kitchen when I turned around, 2 mugs of tea already made, one waiting at my usual seat. He didn't ask what I'd said. He already knew. You okay? He asked. I'm good, I said, and meant it, sitting down across from him in the quiet, steady warmth of a house that finally, fully, belonged only to the people who respected it. Here's what 15 years of building something from nothing taught me, and what this whole ordeal confirmed. The people who count on you being too sweet to notice, too clueless to check, too soft to act. Those people are betting on a version of you that stopped existing the moment they crossed the line. Quiet isn't the same as blind. And grace, real grace, is something you choose to give the innocent, not something you owe the people who exploited you. So let me ask you, If you'd found out at 3 a.m. that someone in your own house had their hand in your purse, would you have confronted them that same night, or played it patient like I did? Tell me in the comments. And if this story hit home for you, hit like, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.